Hey everybody, I'm Joe Zealand and today I'm going to show you how to play the guitar from the official acoustic version of My Universe. Let's start up with the tuning. Actually, there's quite a lot that can be said about the tuning for this track, since the acoustic guitar on the official recorded version has one specific tuning, but the way Chris has played the song so far live actually has a different tuning. Why that is, man, I don't know. So for now, let's focus on the official, commercially released acoustic track. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna do a little recap of how you can play the alternate version, if you will. All right, so the tuning of the song is E, A, C, G, B, and C. However, you don't even have to tune the high E string down to a C if you want to play it like the original. And I'm going to explain to you why. If you tune your high E string down to a C, and then take your capo and put it on the 4th fret, the open note of the high E string, once again, is an E. So if you want to perfectly emulate the original tuning, but you don't want to tune your high E string down to a C, you can do the following. You just keep your high E string on an E, take your capo, put it on the 4th fret, but place it so you don't cover the E string. And you get the same exact effect of tuning your high E string down to a C and then putting your capo on the 4th fret. This only works though because we don't need the high E string other than playing it open. So if you want to be resourceful, I recommend you just keep your high E string on an E, and if you have a suitable capo, you just take it and just put it on the top 5 strings, leaving the high E open. But if for some reason you actually do want to play it 100% like it was recorded on the original track, tune it down to a C, take your capo, put it on all 6 strings. But just to repeat, it sounds exactly the same, absolutely no difference. You can try it out. I'm not even going to do it because I actually don't like tuning and retuning my strings all the time because it's pretty taxing, and it always seems to me like it makes the strings sound old faster if you jump around with your strings all the time. Alright, now let's talk about the actual song. Well, if you're a little familiar with the song now, you might have noticed that the song is basically just one huge loop. If we're just talking harmony, the basic harmony stays the same throughout the entire song. And just so you know, I'm going to be talking about chords now, but I'm going to be talking about them always with respect to the positioning of the capo. So I'm actually going to talk about chord shapes and not the universal tone, if you will. But yeah, the general chord progression is super easy. It's F, A minor, and G major. Notice how in typical Chris Martin fashion, you have the same chord, thumb, ring finger, and index finger, and you just push it from fret 1 to 5 to 3. The original recording uses a C on the 2nd round, which the acoustic version doesn't do. Instead, the acoustic version uses this chord. And on the last cycle of the chords, in the chorus, you replace the A minor with this chord. And these are the chords you hear at the beginning of the song, which is basically the chorus. The song starts with the chorus, just with individually strummed chords and not a consistent strumming pattern, which we will look at later. So yeah, that's your intro. Oh, just a little reminder, I personally really recommend you use a plectrum to play the song. If you don't like them, that's fine. You can totally play the song just with your fingers and your hand. But I'm 99.9% convinced that the original recording also has a plectrum. In a bit I will explain to you why I really prefer to play this on a plectrum, which I usually don't do. Let's now have a look at the verse. As I said earlier, it uses the same exact harmony as the chorus, but if you're familiar with this version of the song, you know that the verse is actually finger-picked. well, I'm going to play it with a plectrum. First of all, I'm going to show you a simplified version of the verse with a very, very consistent picking pattern. I'm also going to turn on a click track for this part. The song is set at 105 beats per minute. So you keep the overall bass notes, and then you add this. If you're a little more familiar with the original track, you know that it's not that easy. Well, this is already pretty advanced. Overall, the song is definitely not particularly beginner-friendly. But in fact, when you play this G-shaped chord, so when we've basically reached the end of this phrase, there are so many different variations. They're completely different and individual almost with each different phrase. In my play along, which you might have just watched, I've kind of like reduced it to like a couple of variations, because while it's not impossible to emulate what's happening on the original track, to me it's super obvious that it's just random improvisations. I recommend you do the same thing. Just have fun with it. I'm going to show you the phrases that repeat the most frequently now. So as you can tell, somewhat advanced tech here. You want to start out with a hammer-on and a pull-off on the G string. That's a pull-off on the D string repeated twice. And you finish the phrase, well, I finish the phrase either on this open A string or middle finger on the 6th fret of the A string. You can also do a much more classic lick, which I also do here and there, which is basically you walk down these 4 strings with pull-offs and a hammer-on as the first movement respectively. Once again, I am super convinced this is just complete improvisation on the original recording, because there's no consistent pattern or anything, it's just random variations. Also, on the original acoustic track, just like on my cover, there are 2 acoustic guitars playing, one panned a little to the left, one panned a little to the right, and they also don't play the same thing. That makes things even more complicated. So to sum up, the verses use a basic pattern, which stays the same. Just on that final chord, that G-shaped chord, there's a wide array of variations happening, and I urge you to pick whatever you feel the most comfortable with. So just take it easy, maybe use a click track and maybe slow it down a little, don't start off right away with 105 BPM. And I think it's also a nice way to practice this tech stuff. Oh, and just to wrap this part up, by the way, I use a plectrum for this song because I personally think it's so much easier to play these hammer-ons and pull-offs with a plectrum compared to your fingers, but obviously you can totally do it with your hand and with your fingers, but it's just a choice. And I'm also pretty convinced that on the original recording, Chris and John and whoever else plays on this song also used plectrums. So yeah, there you go. So let's now take a closer look at the chorus. As I've mentioned earlier, we're starting off with the chorus on this song, but just with individually strummed chords. The actual chorus uses a strumming pattern, which goes a little like this. So, also not very beginner friendly, quite a fast rhythm. It's also not particularly straight. There's a lot of alternating upstrokes and downstrokes. So what I typically do when I explain rhythm is, well, first of all, we gotta slow it down a little. So the main difficulty of this rhythm is that the transitions from one chord to the next don't fall into a straight 2-4 or a full beat pattern, but instead the transitions happen between the 2s and 3s. I'm going to turn on the click track for this so you can better understand what I'm talking about. Note how this is not the same as the intro. In the intro, the chords fall into that 2 and 4 pattern. So yeah, to sum up, if you really want to master this song played just like it sounds on the original track, there's quite a lot of advanced stuff that you need to nail. The hammer-ons, the pull-offs, the offbeat strumming pattern, also the general pace of the song. It's quite fast at 105 BPM. But then again, the general harmony is so easy that you can totally play a simplified version of the song and it will still sound pretty authentic, because at least the chords are very, very easy and somewhat beginner friendly. For last, I want to show you something a little curious. As I've mentioned earlier, there's 2 official versions to play this now, because the recorded version uses this tuning. I'm 99.99999% convinced, mostly because this hammer-on pull-off pattern is not really possible to play with the alternate tuning. The alternate tuning, I'm going to show it to you now. So far, Chris has played the song twice live at Global Citizen. He actually just grabs his guitar at the end of the song in like the finale and plays along. And he also played the song on the Kelly Clarkson show. And in the Kelly Clarkson video, it's super obvious that he doesn't use this tuning, but a tuning that's a lot closer to standard tuning. Why is that, you may wonder? Well, if you look at the footage, you can see that the bass chord in that performance doesn't look like this, but like this, which looks a lot more like an F sus2 as you would play it in standard tuning. However, if you play this shape with this tuning, it sounds like this. Not exactly. Also, when he plays this A minor/A minor 7 chord, he oftentimes will play it like this, which also doesn't sound right in this tuning. I'm going to switch guitars now and check this out. So this is standard tuning, except you tune the high E string down to a C, or if you want to be resourceful, you do what I did again. You take your capo and just put it on the top 5 strings, leaving the high E string open. So this guitar right now is actually in standard tuning. And for some reason, this is the tuning that Chris has used so far live. But once again, if you want to play it just like it sounds on the commercially released track, you can't do it with this tuning. It's not possible. Also, if you have really good ears, you can tell that it actually doesn't sound like on the original recording. It's close enough, and Chris plays it like this live, but it's not the tuning from the original recording. But again, if you don't want to retune your guitar at all, I recommend you play it like this, because it almost sounds like the original. It's not exactly the same, but it sounds close enough. And you can keep most of the stuff from the original recording, except for the hammer-ons and pull-offs, which simply do not work with this tuning. It's just not the same. And if you want to make up for that, it becomes practically impossible to play, because then you have to play it right here, which I can do now at this tempo, but it's impossible with the original tempo. No, not even gonna try it. But everything else works fine, especially the chorus. Just make sure that you wanna add this note to the basic shape of the chord, right? Like this. Basically, you add an octave to the bass note. Thank you so much for checking this video out. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you want to stay up to date to all of my latest releases. And I'll see you folks on the next video. Joe Zealand, out.